Full-time reaction here from the Olimpico, and it finished Lazio 2, Celtic 0, Martin. We could almost have wrote the script for that, another Champions League away day. Another game where it feels like we've competed alright, but we contrived to lose it in the end.
It's slightly different tonight to the other two away games, isn't it? We stayed in the game until late on, without necessarily threatening. I felt we were quite poor getting up the flanks. We didn't really create an awful lot, with a reasonable amount of possession, particularly in the second half. And then you're thinking at 0-0, it's not enough, 70 minutes, it's not enough, we need to try and get a winner. And then they make a substitution, it changes the game. And once they get that goal, you think there's no way back. And the big disappointment for me tonight was when we did have those 2 or 3 half chances, well, we're nowhere near clinical enough, we're just wasteful. We didn't have a lot of chances, but I think in particular the Young chance, the header. Yeah. And prior to that, Kjell had a chance, he just put it just past the post.
Early in the second half, yeah.
Second half had come out and made a good start, but overall, really gutted, disappointed with the campaign in general. And we've not scored on the road in the 3 games. I say the only difference tonight was we didn't lose that first half goal, whereas obviously in Feyenoord and Atletico at half time it was as good as over. Yeah. And tonight at 70 minutes you thought, wait a minute, we might somehow get those 3 points we've been craving, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, I think tonight's so strange. Being in here seeing Lazio as a home team, they're happy to let us have it in the first half with decent spells of possession. No real massive chances for either team in that first half, but as the game wore on, it's getting to 60-70 minutes, I actually felt maybe this one has got 0-0 written all over it. And a draw wouldn't have been the best result for us because of the situation in the group, but Lazio make a substitution and they bring Immobile in. I actually thought it's probably a game between 2 Europa League teams, and Lazio without Immobile are a totally different team. And Immobile comes on, he gets 2 chances and it finishes 2-0.
I mean, he is the difference, and I think 203 goals now for Lazio, he really is a cult hero for them, and I wonder why they didn't start him. I hadn't really studied their likely lineup prior to the game, but noticed they hadn't started and thought, that's a bonus. Was that a bit of arrogance from Lazio? Maybe they think they didn't need him. Possibly he wasn't 100% fit, but he certainly looked fit when he came on. What a player he is. But just disappointing that we knew he was coming on, we just had to stay strong at the end. I know the first one was a bit of deflection, but we just were a bit disappointed defensively when he came on. So it was a combination of his quality plus us being poor at the back. But as soon as we got the first one, the second one was just a killer blow, and then the penalty was to some extent immaterial, wasn't it?
Rubbing it in.
Rubbing it in. Typical Italians all over the referee. As I say, had we got the penalty and had we scored it, no guarantees
academic,
there.
Really,
it was academic. Other than we would have got a single goal on the road for these fans who've travelled. Most of these guys here probably been to all 3, and it just would have been nice for them to get a goal. And it was nice to see the fans at the end. The disco music comes on, and one of the things I love about Celtic is we're gracious in defeat. And the guys will go out and enjoy themselves tonight and have a drink or 2. Probably quite delighted that it's an early kick-off as well, an extra couple of hours in the pub. But they deserve more. I think that's the frustration. They deserve more, and I'm sure there'll be lots of criticism that will come the team's way post-campaign, regardless of what happens in the final game. We win the final game with nothing to play for, with a single point, and ultimately it's not good enough.
Yeah, as we record this video, Feyenoord Atletico still to come, but us getting beat tonight finishes it for us. I think the fans do deserve better. I think we need a drink after a campaign like that. But the frustrating thing is, you feel like we're almost preordained to get beat like that. Like, despite the fact that Lazio are a team that maybe are not the elite Champions League level, I think we can see that. We can compete with them. We showed it in the game at Celtic Park. We managed to lose it in the last minute. We showed it again tonight, but we managed to lose it. And it just feels like we can't be ruthless enough. We can't get to that level to convert performances. And I'm not saying that we deserve to really win it tonight. It was an even game. There wasn't a lot in it. But the guarantee is that away from home in the Champions League, Celtic will end up losing it.
And some of the stats are kicking about post-match, where there's a bit of reflection on runs of defeats or consecutive games without a victory. So some of the comparisons that have been made after the match tonight that I've seen pre-2010, you look at that fantastic record at home, really impressive. We were winning or drawing at home, every single time, and we've now lost that sparkle at home. And I think it's now 15 games of Champions League without a victory. So rightly so, some of the fans are now saying we are so out of depth at this level, and you can't disagree with that. With 15 games without a victory, that's a long run. And I'm not going to defend the team and the performance in the campaign. But the frustrating thing for me is we have competed in some of those games. We've been outclassed in the final stages of the game. We've just been short. And we're a bit sick of the sob story, aren't we? But genuinely, hand on heart, I look at those games we've just played, the 5 so far, totally outclassed in the Madrid game. I'm not subscribing to the sob story in my head sending off, but totally outclassed in that game, start to finish. But in the other 4 games we've competed pretty well in all 4, but ultimately not been good enough when it comes down to being clinical in front of goal and avoiding the goals against us. So, you know, and of all the sob stories about red cards and VAR decisions and all the rest of it, performances have been good, but the results have been nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I think when we come to the Champions League and you go through a campaign like that, you're almost glad to get rid of it. So we've got the final match there against Feyenoord, but we go back again to focusing on domestic stuff after that final match day, and we try and win the league again, and we try and qualify for this level again. But what confidence do you have that we'll come in next season if we do qualify in the new format, 8 games instead of 6, better equipped, with more quality, with the quality we need to take that last step and try and convert performances and spells and games into victories?
And who knows, I hate looking back, but who knows how Andrew performed in this campaign, because he had a real bit of momentum with his team. And a lot of fans would probably say in answer to that question that he would have done much better, and that's not necessarily a criticism of Brendan Rodgers, because he is a fantastic manager, no doubt in his credentials. He hasn't proven himself at this level, but he has competed at a good level and produced some good teams, some good results, and his CV is very good. But you can't help but wonder, would Ange have had a more successful campaign? Probably because he had a style of play, he had a group of players who understood him.
It's continuity.
And then you bring in a new manager with a new style, a slight change to personnel. Obviously, having lost 1 or 2 players, it wasn't radical change, it wasn't an exodus. They lost a couple of players.
Important players.
And they brought in important players, and brought in players that sadly most of whom have not been good enough. You look at Yang tonight, another disappointing performance. Palmer's probably one of the ones that you think, yep, he could be good, but we need more than Palmer, a lot more than Palmer to replace the players that are no longer here. So that's probably the only bit I'm a bit curious about, because you get a good manager, you need to try and keep them. We didn't keep Ange long enough, and I suppose that was Ange's decision, not necessarily the board's decision. They tried to keep him, but so we've suffered. Consequence of our campaign has been the loss of the manager, not just the loss of some of our top players. And then you start again, and you bring in a good manager, so tick that box. But a new manager with new ideas, and it's almost like it's come too soon for him. And will the campaign next year be better, because this group of players will understand what Brendan's trying to do, but he definitely needs some better personnel, and needs a stronger squad. We need a much stronger bench. You look at the starting 11 most weeks, and if they're all fit, you think, yeah, decent starting 11, but you look at the 5 guys on the sub most on the bench most weeks, and you're like, there's no inspiration.
Yeah, I think the depth of quality is just not there. There's no doubt watching these games that you can see we need 2 or 3 quality additions to try and make that step up. We go back to domestic duty on Sunday at St Johnstone. We both gave our thoughts to the Marlow game. I don't think there's any doubt the team need to start performing a bit better domestically. Because if there's one thing to take away from this campaign, it's that it can't eat into the domestic form. We've got to sort of go up a level there and start performing at a much higher level and try and take a stranglehold on the domestic title.
I mean, these games can either help or hinder. I think I've often wondered in the past, when you play at this level and then you go back to play a lesser team, if your mentality is right, the experience of playing against these good players has to help, doesn't it? Because it's part of your development.
Go back to maybe the start of that question.
I've often wondered whether playing at this level helps or hinders. I mean, one of the disadvantages would be fatigue and disappointment, and mentally you're feeling really low because of a bad result. And I suppose a lot of that comes down to the manager and the other backroom staff at Celtic to help with the psychological side of the game. But on the flip side, if you're playing at that level and you're developing as a player, and you go back to play a team who are nowhere near as strong as the teams you've been playing, it should help you. I mean, that's part of the development, is it? Because you should go back to that game and say this is far easier, and you should find it easier. The only worry for Celtic, I even thought at the weekend, it's not an excuse, but you've got these guys travelling all over Europe playing for their country, and then this week they're over here playing at a high intensity game. And that's where, back to the squad bit, you want to have a good squad where you can rotate your players to some extent. There's Lazio tonight, their star man's not had to play. He's come on and he's he's impacted the game at the tail end, but we're not good enough to leave Kyogo on the bench, for example.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it all comes back to the strength of your squad to say, how can you get best use of them? So it's not having a significant impact on the domestic game when you come away from these games where there's a reliance on those same 12 or 13 players.
Yeah. That's it for real-time reaction like this video. Comment your own thoughts on the game below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you at the weekend for the build-up to St Johnstone. Cheers.